Welcome to Players Ball Podcast for AT Aliens by AT Aliens. I'm your host, Alex the Great, joined by my brother from another MB. We're back to give you some more podcast Atlanta sports talk. We're actually going to introduce a new team this time, but we won't start with them. Uh, let's start with you, man. How you feeling out there? Is it cold? Your
Oh,
kids got school tomorrow?
they do not have school tomorrow. It is frigid, but I don't really expect much winter weather other than coldness. So we'll see. I think down around Atlanta and south of 20 actually has the highest chance of real snow accumulation tomorrow. So,
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. They did cancel school down here as well, which yeesh, kind of sucks.
where
They
you're
wouldn't have went anyway. I told you my kids have the influenza. So uh,
now, were they out
it's,
today for MLK
yeah,
Day?
they were.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mine
they're
as
out for
well.
MLK Day. Yeah, I mean, typically there's a tradition that we've done over the last couple of years, right? Grayson, my father-in-law, and I pulled up to I think the last two MLK Hawks games. But due to the logistics of the city and the national championship being present in downtown and all that hullabaloo, they played it away, which is kind of sad, right? That is something that was pretty special to the city, and obviously they'll bring it back when they can. But the Hawks did play the MLK Day game today, and we had to go up to the Bing Bong World. Bing Bong.
Did you know they the last time they played away on MLK Day was 2017?
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's been a thing.
Yeah, and they've played in 26 straight.
MLK days.
Yeah. They're fourth on the list all time for ML Day game appearances. Uh the teams that have more are the Knicks, who we played today, the Lakers, and the 76ers.
Hmm.
But given the fact that Martin Luther King, you know, was from Atlanta, preached here, his family still resides here, as one of his daughters or granddaughters was present at the coin flip for the national championship game tonight. So
Oh,
it's
okay. That's dope.
it's only natural, right, that the Atlanta Hawks and any team from the city that happens to be in season during this time would get to host in celebration of Martin Luther King and his achievements.
Which typically it's only going to be the Hawks, right? Because if the Falcons, when they eventually make it back to the playoffs, it'll be a Saturday or a Sunday. Um, Braves are out of season, United's out of season. We do have a volleyball team now, so maybe they'll get some okay love next year. I
Yeah.
can't even think of their name, but their posters are appealing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some long-legged leaping ladies.
But yeah, so they played today. You mentioned against the Knicks, lost 110 to 119. Now the last time we played the Knicks was the infamous dice roll at center court that Trey Young did to send us to Vegas for, what was it, the final four of the in-season tournament. The Knicks did
Semifinals.
to get a little bit of revenge, I guess, just with winning. Nothing special. Didn't get any extra awards, or they didn't get to move on anywhere except for tomorrow. Just another day. But
They did. I mean, I do feel like they uh, playing on MLK Day that we had to travel to them and then to lose. I think it added a little bit of salt to the wound for me, right? Because that's a game that I usually would attend. And then to go up there and lose to the Knicks, we were 4 games back. Now it's a full 5 games back from they're in third. So I was like, all right, they got some get back, but it felt a little more personal than that. So
I mean,
all good, but 3 out of 4, 3 of the last 4 we got wins. I wish it was 4-4.
I was gonna say we were on a 3-game win streak. We beat the Suns, we beat the Bulls, and then we beat the Celtics. I mean, it's only a matter of time, right? Like, you'd like to extend it to 4 games and 5, 6, and 7, but with this team, I feel like just going on a 3-game run, losing a game here. If we can go on another 3-game run, we'll be in good shape moving forward. Looking at the injuries from today and who didn't play, Zach Richeche missed his 3rd straight game, but everyone else was available. Notably, right? I mean, Larry Nance and Kobe Buffkin and a few others were out, but in terms of guys that have seen serious minutes that we really need on the court, they were all pretty much available today, except for the Rook.
Right. No, that's very true. And I think I don't think the Knicks had their full lineup. Let me see if Karl Anthony Towns played. I don't believe that he did. Which was a similar case against Boston yesterday. Still a solid win because Boston didn't go down without a fight. Jeez, and then they beat the Warriors by 40 tonight. So they're obviously a quality club.
Well, the Celtics were up big early against the Hawks, and the Hawks just kind of chewed away at the lead. And I think it was impressive for them just to stay focused, stay in the game, and then come away with the victory in the end. They are, what, 2nd in the East? Or are they first? Second.
The Celtics, they're 2nd in the East. Karl Anthony Towns did actually play today, so they played their full lineup. So played a full power Knicks team.
It's a playoff team, right? I mean,
yeah, they're in third for a reason. They're solid. But having beat the Celtics, and to your point, we were down big that first quarter, so it was just chipping away. So I know you've been watching more Hawks basketball, and earlier on in the season, right? The sloppy play is not desirable aesthetically for you.
No, it's still not.
And your more recent watches, okay, there we go. I was gonna ask you about that Celtics game. Like there was a ton of threes shot. That's Quinn Snyder's brand of basketball. He's gonna have to shoot the rock a lot.
That's the NBA.
It is. Oh, that's the other thing that I sent you. All right, so a quick pivot within the NBA. Adam Silver made a comment that then LeBron James second to say that there are too many threes going up. And it's not that it was just like an announcement. It sounded like he was going to start to form an action plan to decrease the number of threes shot during a game.
What is there that you can do?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
I understand it. I think we talked about it last year during March Madness, but if you think about it mathematically, right? If you shoot, 10 threes and you make 3 of them, that's 9 points. If you shoot 10 twos and you make 4 of them, that's 8 points. You have to shoot at a much higher percentage from 2 than you do from 3 to win in the score column. So like I understand mathematically why teams are leaning towards shooting more threes, but I also don't think that the shooting percentages are lining up with that mentality, right?
That's where I was going. So you do have to shoot a higher percentage, but you will, right? 100% of the teams in the league right now are shooting a higher. I would venture to guess. I put a wager on it. 100% of the teams are shooting a higher percentage from inside the arc than they are outside.
Yeah, I think the magic number, if you're shooting threes, is if you can shoot 40%.
Yeah, we talked about that, and
Yeah.
that's when we checked it. There's no there was like one team that was shooting above 40 at the
At
time.
the time, it was the Boston Celtics who went on to win
Yeah,
the championship, right? I think
yeah.
there
So
was more. I think there was like two, maybe three teams, and they were all leading the league.
we were just talking about how. Well, I'll pivot a little bit. I just don't think Moneyball works with basketball. Right, the analytics say this, but has that translated to championships for the most recent champions? Boston has a formidable team. They have the personnel that can do that. Like even their bigs can shoot threes with Porzingis and Al Horford. But I don't think they're playing money ball with the threes as much as like the Hawks are. It is across the league that three shooting is up. That's why Adam Silver addressed it. But
I mean,
I don't know, man.
look at
Analytics can only get you so far in
the
sports.
Nuggets the year before. I mean, were the same thing. They're a very similar mold, right? They have Porter Jr. that can shoot the three. They got Joker that shoots a good three ball.
But they get a lot of interior points. Right? They're not just jacking threes every time they come down the court.
It's true. Um, I I have watched on several occasions this year where the Hawks are playing, where they're moving the ball around and they're driving and getting interior shots, and it is a better brand of basketball. It is a better brand of basketball, but I do also kind of see to some degree why the league has pushed the way it is pushed.
Yeah. Now, if they're hitting the shots, like a lot of those shots were falling with the Hawks Celtics game the other night. Peyton Pritchard, who's in the running for sixth man of the year, that man was going off in the second half, right? He's raining down threes. So when they're dropping and then you come back and you got big O or double O, um, splashing threes in the corner, like that can be exciting, but it's when it's building a house of bricks where it's like, all right, please knock that off. And I think that happens more often than not. I did pull up the team statistics for this current season. There is zero teams right now who are shooting above 40% from three.
Well,
The highest one is 39.6, so we can round up, right? And that's Cleveland. But then it's 38.8. I guess the top five are all at 38. Um, mid to low 38s. And then as you slide, like you get to the top 10, it's at 37.
yeah, I mean, I get it. I just don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what Adam Silver and company come up with, because what do you do? Start penalizing teams for missing threes?
Right. I mean, I don't know how you.
Are we gonna go back in time and eliminate the 3-point line?
Can't do that.
Just be a game of twos.
Let's see. Adam Silver can fix the NBA's three-point obsession. But the article I was reading definitely didn't describe how he was going to say it, but he did promise to change to combat the NBA's three-point problem.
Bunch of empty
Like
promises.
fans don't like the brand. You got to do something because obviously you're not by yourself in your distaste for watching the game right now, and it's not just the Hawks or the Celtics that are jacking up all these threes, man. It's across the board, and it's unfortunate. It's ugly basketball when it's just come up one shot, like no ball movement even. You just come up, pull a three from 5 feet back, and you're going back down the court. See bricked.
I think it's interesting, and we can move on in a second, but we're in a period of time where the women's game is growing, right? The WNBA is at an all-time high for their sport, but the NBA as a whole has seen a decline in interest. And it's just kind of interesting to see that dynamic kind of happen simultaneously.
Do you think they're taking some of the NBA's market share, man?
No, not at all. But it is kind
Okay.
of it is a funny coincidence, right?
Yeah.
I did see a comment made by Cam Newton. I want your opinion on this. Uh,
Okay.
did you see it?
Mm-mm. Was it on Unrivaled?
No, it was on his Fourth and Goal podcast. But he said that in 20 years, the WNBA will surpass the MLB in popularity and viewership.
Hmm. No.
I don't think so either.
No.
And the clip that I saw was basically saying that Cam Newton was way out of pocket with that comment. And
I can tell you where I think he was coming from. Um, one, baseball to a lot of viewers is boring, right? But two, now, especially with we were talking about it earlier, and we're not going to dive into it now, right? But you have teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees who just have unlimited money, and it doesn't feel like there's an even playing field.
yeah, I agree. There's got to be something done by Major League Baseball, and I actually think they have the power to do it, unlike Adam Silver. But they got to do something about all these deferred contracts. It is taking advantage of the rules as they're laid out, but to have over $1 billion in deferred money is completely asinine.
Yeah,
And when you look
that's crazy.
at the luxury tax thresholds, the Dodgers are the last figure I saw was $74 million in payroll ahead of the next team. That's more than entire teams. And that's the gap.
And imagine if they go on a run, like they just won the most recent World Series. If they go on a run and win the next two or three, interest is going to fade from the sport because they're not going to stop spending money.
Yeah.
They had too long a drought to to let these things go, and the players are adding on are crazy. Like they just got the latest Japanese pitcher, right? But when you don't really have a salary cap because you're deferring all the money, to your point, how do you beat that?
I guess you just have
Join
to
them.
open up the checkbook.
Yeah, well, 99% of the teams, we'll call it 95 because the Yankees are in here. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, no. And it's hard because the LA and New York markets are just so large, right? Like,
Slick, the Yankees didn't even do it. All right, they let Juan Soto walk.
well, not without trying.
I mean, they could have matched.
Yeah.
So, but it was a New York team that stepped in and spent that check. The Celtics are shooting 49.4 threes a game, bro.
Jeez.
And they're only making 36% of them.
Mm.
That's terrible.
Well, from one hoop squad to another, you kind of teased in the intro talking about a new squad we've never talked about on the podcast. The Hoop Dogs.
One more thing about the Hawks before we transition, man. I just want to shout out Keaton Wallace and the College Park Skyhawks and their victory over the Bulls. The boys got a lot of good buckets, played stupendous defense. So I hope to see, it doesn't look like Kobe Buffkin is going to work out. I hope he has a full recovery. But maybe Keaton Wallace can make the team, man, and come in and do some backup for Trick or Trey.
So it wasn't just Keaton Wallace. I forget.
It wasn't just him.
I forget
he went off the most for sure.
I forget the other gentleman's name. He's a 25 or 26-year-old that I can't remember where he played hoops in college, but it was a small school, mid-major, and I think he came in and hit like 9 threes and worked his way into a 2-way contract. So, maybe we can get some of that deadly accurate shooting from the Skyhawks, because they came in and they did their thing against the Bulls, who are kind of trash, but you got to win the game.
They are.
You got to win the games you're
Wins
supposed to win.
win.
And we did it without really Trey, Jalen Johnson, or
We started that play was the Great Barrier Thief.
yeah. So yeah, shout out to them. But getting back to the Dogs,
The dogs.
they
Basketball dogs.
they debuted in the top 25 in men's college hoops for the first time in 14 years. Now, they didn't have a good week following. They
They have now left the top 25.
they have left the top 25. However, they did have a tough schedule ahead. So what pushed them into the top 25, just taking it back, they went and they beat Kentucky at home. Their next game was against the number 6 or 7 Tennessee Vols at Tennessee, which they were, I think, leading at halftime by a point, and then in the second half they just got run out the building, and so they took a L up in Knoxville, and then their next game was against the number 1 team in the country, the Auburn Tigers, in which they lost by 1. So Mike White, the coach, has this team playing hard. They've got some good wins. They've got some tough losses. I think there's a lot of hope that we end our drought of appearing in March Madness, which I believe you said was 10 years? 10 years since the last time the Dogs have reached the tourney?
No, I thought it was longer than that.
Was it 20?
I think it was, close to 20 mark. There was another crazy statistic that, I found this one. So the last time that Tennessee and Georgia played each other when they were both ranked was 2003.
Yeah.
And they said most of that is because of Georgia, right?
Yeah,
Tennessee's
for
been
sure.
ranked more than once, right? But
Tennessee's been ranked pretty much every year for the last 10.
2015 is what it was, yeah.
Yeah, so it was 10 years ago.
10 years, a little decade.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's promising. I think this is Mike White's second year coaching in Athens. They've done a lot in the transfer portal. They've done a lot.
Got Dominique Wilkinson coming in.
Yeah.
For recruitment, right?
They've done much better in recruiting, so it's an exciting time for the men's Bulldogs basketball team. I think you said they've never won a national championship.
Never won the Natty in basketball, and the last time they made it to the Final Four, 1983.
Yeah.
40 years, 42 years, to be exact, ago.
And
so
I know Neek's old. Was that during the Neek era, or was that
83?
Feel like he was probably before that time, just a smidge.
I tend to agree with you because I think he won the 88 dunk contest. Oh, well, that might put him where he needed to be, though.
Yeah.
He was a Hawk in 82.
Yeah, I figured that was after the Neek era, but right around, I mean, it was just after it, so the Dogs were much
79 to 82 is when he played.
It's a much different era for Dogs basketball back then. Back before our time.
Yeah. Well before.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to the Dogs in basketball, man. You know, we probably won't talk a whole lot about the Atlanta Vibe, but that is the professional volleyball team that I mentioned at the top of the pod. So, show them some love. It is an Atlanta team. Seems like it might be a good watch.
The Vibe.
The Vibe, yeah,
Hmm.
Atlanta Vibe. They got the number one draft pick. I didn't even know professional volleyball had a draft, but
Are they
they got the number one
televised?
draft pick. D1, Merritt Beeson.
Are they televised games? Because if they are, I'd for sure tune in to at least one. Just to, I mean, I've always enjoyed the Olympic volleyball,
100%. Yeah.
um, men's and women's, right? I mean,
Mhm.
so I might check it out. I don't know that I'm going to pay money to go see one in person. Can't imagine it would cost a lot, but the drive and the time, uh, I don't think they're going to get my money yet.
So they play at Gas South,
In Gwinnett?
Gwinnett Arena.
Whew,
Yeah.
that's even more of a hike.
Is that further from you?
Yeah.
You can get standing section on the floor, $16. 100 level row B, you're looking at 31 buckaroos, man. So maybe we can make it happen. This
Yeah.
is not a ton of investment.
Nah, it's just time. Time is money.
Yeah, for time travel. Yeah,
So,
time is money.
do you have any guess what the entry price was to tonight's national championship game?
I heard on the radio it was pretty cheap, but I didn't look at it. How much was it?
Last I saw, the get in was 3 racks.
Really?
Yeah. Notre Dame and Ohio State fans
We talked about them last week. Yeah.
are crazy.
I mean, probably what would we say the two most well-known programs in the country.
Two of some of the most well-known programs, right? Like it's hard to not also group in a couple other blue bloods
Like who?
like Texas and Michigan and even Penn State, Alabama, USC, Georgia, right? Like there's
I
just
don't know, but if we're saying there's a king on the throne, right? I've seen that ND since I was a kid. I remember those Irish basketballs at Six Flags back in the day during the little shot. They was always flying off, and then the other one that I knew was the that weird looking head on that mascot man on Ohio State. I guess he's a Buckeye.
yeah, I don't know what he is.
The heck a Buckeye is.
Well, Buckeye is a plant, as far as I know. It's like a nut. It's a yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a nut.
Ohio Buckeye, yeah.
But either way,
Huh. It's a chestnut
three
tree.
racks is a much steeper ask than, would you say, like $14, $13 to get in to the Vibe?
16. Put some respect on the Vibe's name.
So maybe we'll go check them out for the low. But yeah, another team, that's getting ready to start their 2025 campaign is Atlanta United. They kick off at home against the Montreal. I don't know what the heck their team is, but it's
Yes, absolutely.
it's Impact, Montreal Impact, but I don't know what their, you know how like we're the Five Stripes. I don't know what their nickname is. But we kick off against them February 22nd at the Benz. But a lot of rumors swirling around right now. We do have 2 open designated player spots, and those rumors are about how we're going to fill those positions. One is extra exciting to me personally. The other is exciting, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that I follow professional soccer to the level that I follow the NFL or college or even baseball. So the second one I don't know a whole lot about. Emmanuel Lath. Uh, he's
Close enough.
20.
We'll get it right next time we hear.
He's a 26-year-old forward. He currently plays for Middlesbrough, a team I'm not familiar with, but it's in the English
Premier League
or one of the Premier Leagues. And he's from the Ivory Coast. He this year has played in 30 games, started in 23, and he's scored 16 goals and has 1 assist, so a little less than 1 goal per game. About half a goal per game. A little more than half per start. So not a super prolific scorer from Middlesbrough, but he is up there. And from what I've read from fans, they're pretty excited about the potential to add him to the Five Stripes on a record transfer deal.
Yeah, I think they're not going to pay $20 million, for just any old body. The other thing, it seems the players that have transferred from Europe have skewed older in the past. And this is 26. You got to be near the prime of your career, right? Obviously, dollars are incentive enough to make the move if he does come over, but that's a youthful player coming over in the height of his career, and he's coming into the MLS where we can acknowledge from a talent perspective, it's still inferior to the leagues across the pond, right? So I think there's something to really be excited about. Now, to your point, I don't know a lot about him. I just read his name, right? and his country of origin. Yeah. But somebody coming over, the kind of money that they're talking, and his age, that's very encouraging for me.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, it is an inferior league talent-wise, and if he was successful against the best competition in the world, there's a lot to believe that he'll be even more successful here in Atlanta against inferior talent. So excited. I think the team has come to a transfer agreement with Middlesbrough, but they're still working the personal terms of the contract. And from what I read today, Leeds is also very interested in him, and could be an issue with finalizing the deal if he prefers to go to Leeds and stay in the English Premier League as opposed to come to the MLS. Now, the other deal that I've been watching closely, that I'm personally invested in, would be the return of an Atlanta United legend, not Joseph, but the other half of the Dragon Ball Z power-up, Miguel Almiron.
I forgot they did that. They used to do that, Sally. Yeah. That was always fun.
Oh, man, that was my favorite. Now, Miguel was my favorite Atlanta United player from the original 17 squad. He was a part of the championship team. He left the following season to join Newcastle United, where he's been since. And he's had some ups and downs there. I think a year or two ago, he had a pretty good season. He's dealt with a little bit of injury, a little bit of changes in managers. And I think this season has kind of been a low for him there in terms of production and minutes. But we've seen what he brings to the MLS, and his speed and his he was a assist king when he was here. Now, he was feeding the ball to Joseph, and I don't know who he be feeding to on our current roster. But I would be excited to see him. He's an electric player. He is still only 30, which I think is still pretty young for a soccer player. And he has agreed to personal terms. So I think they're just finalizing whatever they have to finalize. He did not play in their last game at Newcastle. So it looks to be like it may be a done deal. And I'm excited about it.
Bring back Miggy, man. I'm with it. Hell, bring back Joseph too.
Yeah, just bring him back with two new knees.
Did you? So that's what I was about to say about Miggy. I know he's had some injuries, and then there was some lack of playing time. To your point about the change in management of the team, but he is 30, and I think last he played for us, he was like 23 or 24.
Yeah, he left after the end of 2018. You know, I think he was 22, 23 years old.
Yeah. So a 30-year-old Miggy is still more than welcome, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like. Do you have the expectation that you're getting that exact same player back?
I do, to some degree. Yeah.
That doesn't sound realistic, Matty.
Maybe not, but it's hard because I haven't watched a lot of him playing in Newcastle. So, like, I still associate him with his highlights from when he was in United. So, it's hard to separate the two, right? Even though time has passed, I still expect him to be Miggy. He is. He's just.
I think he still will be. He's just gonna be older.
6 years older and has 2 kids now. I mean.
Yeah. So at a 30-year-old, how much of a drop off would you say you had in your speed from 23 to 30?
I think I got faster. Somewhere in there, I think I got faster, and then I slowed down again. I don't know.
I was doing pretty good when I hit 30, but I had an injury, man. It kind of sent me off a cliff for a little bit, and I had to build my way back up. But 23-year-old me was not as strong. I've got more strength, but definitely a lot more endurance, which is huge in soccer. A lot more speed.
I'm trying to remember. So we're talking 2018, 2019.
Us or him?
No, for us.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it might have been 2018 when I was running all those distance races, right? 5Ks, 10Ks. I don't remember when was the 50th anniversary of the Peachtree.
It would have been right around that time.
So that honestly was probably my fastest time of my life. But I was.
Yeah, I think it would have been like 19 because the next year they had to cancel it. They did virtual for COVID.
Yeah. But that was probably the only time outside of my teens playing sports where I actually was running and training as a runner. So
yeah, if you would have been putting in that training at 23, do you think you would have had a superior time?
Yeah, probably. Actually,
all right.
I was putting in a lot of training when I was 23. It was just in a different sense. I was lifting weights and not really focusing on running specifically.
Yeah, I want to get back to that running. My knee's starting to feel a little better at like this move. I've started the year off pretty good, man. Moving, I had a couple of 20K days and then a 10K day. And, even when I wasn't and working, I was averaging like 6 or 7K, which, doesn't sound like a lot to my old self when I was, I was knocking down 9 to 10 every day. But but more recently, working from home, man, I just sit. So I average like three K a day.
Yeah.
So that boosted me, and then I'm doing a water challenge too. I actually need to finish, this before we're done. We're doing 64 ounces a day. Got another 3 or 4 days of it, and I'm gonna try to keep that going because I felt. So I told you everybody in my house got the flu, right? I think without the increased water consumption, I would be down bad as well. I had some effects, so I know I got a taste of it, and we're a very intimate group here. Right, kids be in my bed, laying on my pillows, and all kinds of stuff. They're in my face. I always want daddy to carry them. So I'm gonna catch what they have. When they're sick, I don't eat after them, but I'm eating after them on a normal day. So I'm gonna catch it. But the water, it just seems to have helped a lot, man. Drink more water. You probably do pretty good on your water consumption, huh?
I do. There are some days where I definitely lack, and it's, you know, depending on what I have going on. But I do try and keep up that water consumption.
So important and beneficial to your body, man.
100%. So is just movement in general. I start
Oh
my
yeah.
I start my days not every day, but I have workout plans that I follow via the tonal, and whichever
Hmm.
days that I have workouts on, I try to do it first thing in the morning. Wake up and get the body moving because I work at a desk too, so I have to
Yeah.
combat the same things.
Sedentary lifestyle, man. It's a slow
Yeah.
killer. But welcome back, Miggy, man. We hope 30-year-old Miggy is just as youthful and agile as 23-year-old Miggy. And it can happen. You got a professional athlete, he's making millions of dollars. They take very good care of their bodies because that's their money maker. So maybe he comes back and he's killing it. Either way, I think he's an upgrade over whatever we had, right?
100%.
And he's a fan favorite. So welcome back.
Yeah.
Football to football.
Football to football.
We close out with a little Falcons talk. It was just some rumors. Well, no, we had some confirmed news. We have a new defensive coordinator. They're bringing back Jeff Ulbrich. I saw a statistic that said that since he has been the DC and the Jets, they're the only team that ranked in the top five over the last 2 years. I think I read that right, but need to look at that.
So
I don't remember his stint here before. I think he was just an assistant, right?
he was a linebackers coach. He did
Okay.
he did take over the DC position when Raheem was interim head coach when we let go of old Dan Quinn, who's we'll talk about I guess a little bit when we hit on
We will.
the playoffs. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was a linebacker coach until he was interim DC. He left after that 2020 season, was it?
Mm.
And went to the Jets, and he's been with the Jets ever since. Now, in 2022, they were top 4 scoring defense and 4th in yards. In 2023, they were 12th in points allowed and 3rd in yards. And then this past year, they were 20th in points allowed, but 3rd in yards. So the last 3 years, they've been top 5 in yards, but they only had 1 year where they were top 5 in points allowed. Now this year, I think, is a little bit of a I don't know, miss, because for 12 of those games, he was no longer the defensive coordinator. He was the interim head coach. And I do think that matters, right? When he had to step away as full-time DC and take on the head coaching duties, I think it definitely is going to take a negative toll on the defense.
Do you know what EPA is? Defense EPA?
Not
I looked it
offhand.
up. I can't. That's what I was quoting. Jets defense was top 5 in defensive EPA in 22 and 23.
EPA. I can't even think of what it might stand for. PA points allowed.
Earned points allowed.
Yeah, I don't know.
That'd be a weird thing there, right?
Yes.
What is defense? Expected points added.
Okay.
A measure of how well a team performs compared to their expectations on a play-by-play basis. That's a good metric.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Kind of a predictive statistic, right? So we kind of talked about who we thought might be the defensive coordinator last week. If you haven't gone and watched that episode, please go do it. You will see that I said pretty confidently that I felt Jeff Ulbrich would be the move because of his relationship with Raheem Morris. Now, I've seen a lot of fans kind of bash the hire because of this.
I've seen that too.
I think it's interesting. I saw someone comment along the lines of this team isn't serious about winning. If they were serious about winning, they wouldn't just go hire more of Raheem's guys. And I'm like, Raheem hired him. Who else would Raheem hire but his guys? So kind of silly perspective. But
Nah, so let me jump in there, because one of the things we talked about last week was whether he would hire somebody that not that he can control, right, but that he could still have a very heavy hand on. If Jeff is his boy, I think he fits into that mold more than somebody that's going to come in, had their own design, had their own show, and want to run it their way. So he did. It's like what I've heard is like this is the Jimmy Lake 2.0. Obviously, he has a little more experience than Jimmy did, but
a lot
it's
more.
not too far from that, though.
But the expectation that someone would hire someone that's not one of their people is kind of crazy, right? Like,
no, you don't just hire your friends.
No, but you hire someone you're familiar with, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And this is a friend. This is more than a familiarity. He said as much.
There's no one in the NFL that Raheem doesn't know at this point, right?
Yeah, so he could have hired anybody by that logic, right?
But he's going.
He hired his boy.
He hired someone he's.
If it doesn't work out, it's gonna bite him in the ass. 100%.
More familiar with, that he's worked with before. I think having had a working relationship with him, given this past year's lack of performance, is a safer bet, right? If you feel like you're in a pressure scenario, you are gonna lean towards someone or something you trust more so than taking a shot on someone that has a high potential, but you really don't know what you're gonna get because you haven't had the first-hand experience with, right?
No, I disagree. I think think you do have, like, if you're looking at their statistics and their resume, you take that into effect more than somebody who's, a good friend, considering this year that you just had, right? The Jimmy Lake hire was unsuccessful at this point. And for the sentiment to be like, well, this is just he's a more experienced, more talented Jimmy Lake, right? Another like Raheem guy. I don't think that looks good. I would rather have brought in like, who was not him per se, right? The Saints former DC who took over the head coach got fired mid-season because he didn't appear to be able to do the whole job. Dennis Allen, right? I would have preferred somebody like him or a Steve Wilkes who has been successful, but I know he's going to come in doing his own thing. He's been a head coach. Jeff Ulbrich
has been successful.
He just did an interim. Has he? I mean, we talked about the top five, but then you listed statistics that were not that good.
They've been in the top 5 in yards allowed for the last 3 years or 5 years. Or 3 years, sorry.
But points allowed, you said they were
They
low.
were
What was the other number that you gave?
going in reverse order. So last year to 2022, it was 20th, 12th, and 4th. Yeah, 4th.
So fourth was last year. Fourth was 2022.
4th was 2022. 12th was 2023. I mean,
So they've been getting worse with
they had
growing
talent. They had 2 good years, and this year, like I said, it's hard to judge because he was the head coach for 12 games.
But they weren't headed in the right direction before he took over that head coach. That's why Robert Saleh got fired. It was both sides of the ball that were suffering. They did make some poor management decisions, like bringing in Devontae Adams for Aaron Rodgers was probably a mistake.
They were desperate.
How do you let Aaron Rodgers underperform to what Zach Wilson did,
man? Because he's 40 years old, coming off of a Achilles injury or a.
I mean, I get it. I'm just saying what the reality is. Their defense was. Now Zach Wilson wasn't playing defense, but he damn sure had that defense on the field a lot more, and they played better. Aaron Rodgers he's not a downgrade in quarterback play. That'd be ridiculous to say, right? But he was a downgrade in wins, man. And
offensively, that team was terrible.
I won't blame Jeff Ulbrich for that, but I don't know. I'm not completely against the hire. I think the optics on it aren't good, though.
I mean,
you fired one friend because you had to fire somebody. They were calling for somebody's head. They being the fans, the media, maybe even ownership, who knows. But you fired one friend to hire another.
And I don't know the differences between what Ulbricht's defense is schematically compared to Jimmy Lake, but I highly doubt they're the same. And I think what ultimately was the detriment of Jimmy Lake was his inexperience, as you mentioned, and his scheme.
Oh, yeah.
His scheme just did not translate. And I think if you're Jeff Ulbrich and you're sitting in a interview and you're looking at this team last year, you're saying, all right, if I'm going to take this job, that pick at 15 and then the next one, those are mine. I'm making those picks, right? Because you don't take that job with the talent that we had and not demand some control over how you're going to build that defensive roster.
You do it if it's your boy. Like, now I'm coming in. I'm going to help you out, man. Whatever you want to do,
so
we'll
they
do
can
it together.
Both be on the street. And
I mean, that's what Raheem is risking. That's my point.
I don't think that's the way it went down, personally, but we'll have to just wait and see if it works.
We will. And, by the season start, I'll probably be a lot more optimistic, but there was a point so I looked up their sacks. Obviously, we finished with 32, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. That's a lot better than we were. Ninth from last. They had 40, but they're still in the bottom half of the league. What I heard on the radio, I don't remember who said it. I was listening to 929 The Game. They were saying that they don't know what he's going to run here because you do have to make decisions based on personnel as far as your scheme. But, that what he was running wasn't the same as what Jimmy Lake was doing, but he wasn't, essentially from a pass rush standpoint, his down linemen weren't getting the job done. Like, were they going out in coverage as much as Matthew Judon? No, but they still weren't getting after it like that. Right? It was a weird scheme where you try to get sacks from other forms of pressure or something. You need a big defensive end that's going to get out there and get busy. Quick pivot. Jared Verse. Obviously, I want Michael Penix. But dang, bro has been balling. And I know they lost the game versus the Eagles, but he has been the best defensive rookie. He should win defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Mm, the kid from Alabama, Terry Arnold, is pretty good too for the Lions, but Jared Verse seems to have done it
They're
longer this season.
both found their way back home and on vacation this past weekend.
They did. But they joined who?
We were never there.
Yeah, well, they joined us on vacation. We started earlier.
Yeah. We've been sipping Mai Tais for a few weeks.
Yeah. Kurt's at Waffle House. I haven't seen him, man. I want to pull up to a Waffle House and see Kurt, man, in a good demeanor and hopeful for his future, you know.
Yeah. So before we completely pivot from the Falcons and talk about a little bit of NFL playoff action, I think we mentioned last week that the team publicly has said that they're completely fine with rolling Kurt out next season as the backup. And we think there may be a little bit of smoke and mirrors there, but at the same time, you know, the money is sunk. If he is the guy, if you can't get, you know, a comparable trade, or, you know, if you can't get the value you're hunting for in a trade, you know, why not just bring him back? But there was another potential trade that we could see this offseason that I want your opinions on. I think I already know how you feel about this, but a lot of rumors moving on from Kyle Pitts.
Do it. Do it yesterday. We can get any value from Kyle Pitts, whether that's a mid-level pick. I do it.
So
I wish him success.
If you do it, obviously that leaves a open roster spot at the tight end position. So
yeah,
which way do you go?
We'll figure that out after he's gone, man. There are some players like Jonathan Smith's not coming back onto the market, not in our price range with the year he had, but Mikael Walker up there with Art. Who knows how long he'll keep him? There are some tight. I think you can find a tight end.
So there is a tight end.
Couple of balls.
There's a tight end in the draft coming out from Penn State that is a big guy, right? Like he's not the athletic freak that Kyle Pitts was supposed to be. He's more of a traditional, you know, blocking and catching tight end, you know, thick, strong legs, hard runner. Would be involved in pause. Would be involved.
Strong legs, hard running. Woo!
Oh man, you're terrible.
Draft him.
Do you draft him first? His name? I can't think of it right now.
No. Is he going first round?
He's projected first round. But there are rumors that we would draft him. I'm like, if we don't go defense with that pick at 15, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I'm gonna be mad.
So one of the targets that I've seen, or the the potential partners in a trade for Kyle Pitts that I've seen, was the Bengals. What if they would do? I mean, it seems far-fetched, but what if they would do Kyle Pitts for some combination that would get us Trey Hendrickson?
I wanted him already. It didn't happen. I just find it hard to believe he would end up here.
I mean, they were still in the midst of although far-fetched, a playoff run. He was definitely the anchor of that defense. Now I think he came out and expressed that he wasn't really interested, right, in staying. It wasn't, trade talk out of nowhere. And he was near the top in sacks. Sacks, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely do the deal. If you could make that happen, I think it's easy, easy decision.
Easy decision. Yeah. If you can, right? Let's see, where was he at in sacks? Yeah, number one. 17 and a half sacks. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it's like more than 50% of our entire team's production.
Yeah, but how do we do that? Right?
Give him
What else
Kyle.
would they want? Kyle Pitts and what? Oh, please. Kyle Pitts in the 15.
Kurt, take them both.
Maybe.
Nah, they're not doing that with Joe Shiesty.
Joe is an absolute dog. He's a beast.
Maybe you can
And he
do
was pretty healthy too, but
maybe you could
he's
do like
had
a
some rough
weird three team move where we trade Kurt to the Browns for something that we package with Kyle Pitts for Hendrickson. I don't know. Get creative.
You heard it here first, Terry.
May
Shaking and baking.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us Trey if we can get Kyle up there to Cincy. I'm with it.
Yeah.
And I don't have any ill will towards him. I hope he has a successful career. I just don't want it to be. At this point, I don't want it to be here. I don't. It's mutually beneficial for him to leave.
So I
Get
have
fresh.
one final thought on that, and then we can get to some bonus content. But if you move on from Kyle Pitts and it does not work out from a compensation standpoint, is that the nail in the coffin for Terry Fontenot? That was his first pick. That was
Yeah. No, it's not.
It's not the nail in the coffin. So
It's not his nail.
you
No.
took him at 4,
Right.
and he was complete failure to this point. If you trade him and the return value does not have success, that's a double whammy.
Right, for one of his draft years, but if that was it, then sure. But he's also drafted Bijan Robinson, he drafted Drake London, he traded for Kirk Cousins. No matter how it ended, that was looked highly upon by a lot of fans. Not everybody, because the money was high, right?
But
Even just this season, he brought in Matthew Judon, brought in Justin Simmons.
which you've said were failures.
They were failures, but they were moves. They were moves that I was encouraged by when they happened. You can't predict what the player's going to do on the field.
But
he made the moves necessary to see.
But you ultimately are judged by the performance of those that you make moves for. You trade for, sign in free agency, or draft. And so far, our record has not really improved.
We'll say that an attribute of coaching. He also inherited a terrible salary cap, right? So he didn't start out the gates with any money. This was the first year he had any money. And we saw what he can do with it. The idea of what he wanted to execute, I agree with 100%. Get an elite pass rusher, right? Bring in safety help, because that was an area of struggle of ours.
What's the saying? The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Sure, his intentions were solid. His vision ultimately was, it made sense, but it didn't get us anywhere. But now we have a backup quarterback that's getting paid $100 million and 2 one-year contracts that you traded. Well, you signed one and you traded for the other. You gave up compensation for one that you're not going to get in return, and the likelihood is you won't re-sign. So you're ultimately going to be graded not on what your intentions and what your vision was. It's going to be how it all played out. And how it all played out was us missing the playoffs again and being a below 500 team. Now, I'm not saying I agree with Terry being fired, but I certainly understand where the criticism comes from. And if they were to swing and miss on a Kyle Pitts move, if he were to go to the Bengals, be successful in Cincinnati, and the return package isn't, I think it could be the nail in the coffin for him.
I think that's out of his control.
I mean,
what Kyle Pitts plays out. So check me out. It's more under the control of the coach. So I think that would be Raheem's neck, especially since he said that, hey, and Terry, maybe they're both fired. But I think he's had enough successful moves. Right, Bijan was the third in the league in rushing yards. He is a future star, a perennial running back in the league. Drake London looks like he will be a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Tyler Algier looks like he will be, if he was on another team starting, oh man, he might make a Pro Bowl, right? He drafted those guys. Now you got the Zach Harrisons that haven't yet panned out because they haven't really had an opportunity. I do think it's time to let go of some of the old guard, right? But he assembled a team. You got to think of what he lost, right? He lost Grady last year, and he brought in Contavious Street. He's made solid moves. I think it's up to the coach to deliver once the product has been given, and they haven't delivered. Matthew Judon is not on Terry Fontenot. I think that's on, Jimmy Lake. So there's already been blood given for that, but ultimately I think that's on the coach. Same thing with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is not delivering. If he can get any value from Kyle Pitts right now before he just walks, because I don't think we re-sign him, I'd count that as a win. Everyone in the league sees that Kyle Pitts hasn't been doing what he was drafted to do.
Oh, 100%, no doubt. The problem is I don't think that GMs and coaches alike are necessarily graded fairly, right? Because at the end of the day, a coach can dial up the perfect play call, but if the players on the field don't execute it, then the coach is the one that's going to take the blame. If the players consistently don't execute well and perform and lose, the GM is going to take the heat for the overall performance of the team. And that's just the way it is. So. It is.
No,
for sure.
Don't take heat for the overall performance of the team.
They 100% do.
Coaches do, and if there's a unified front between the coach and the GM, you fire them both.
The coaches and the GM are ultimately responsible for, or held responsible for, the wins and losses of the team.
Yeah.
Right or wrong.
Matthew Judon, do you think that he was used?
I don't.
In the way he should. So is that coaching or is that GM? Whose fault is that?
I would say that was coaching. However,
right.
That is my opinion.
It's my opinion as well. It's the opinion of others, even if they are not.
But there are also others that are of the opinion that the moves that Terry Fontenot made were bad because they did not play out the way we wanted them to. Of the names of draft picks that you've mentioned, really, Drake London, Tyler Algier, and Bijan Robinson are the only ones that have really been successful to date. Now,
his first round picks.
but he's drafted 6 other rounds in all of those drafts.
Yeah, he has. Last year's players, obviously, we got Penix. He didn't get to play as much. He looked good.
He looks like he's going to be
We
the
got
piece.
the defensive line. Yeah, we got some defensive line pieces. A lot of them didn't get any spin. Right, Ruka, who was our second pick, he didn't get to play a whole lot. That's not on Terry, man.
Braylon didn't play at all.
Braylon Trice got hurt. Yeah, he was done for the year.
I understand that it's out of Terry's control, but I do think unfairly he will be judged by it.
If one of them gets fired, if only one, either Raheem or Terry Fontenot get fired at the end of next year for lack of performance, it will be Raheem Morris.
I think it will be Terry.
Otherwise, it will be both of them. It's both or Raheem. I don't see it being any, especially with the defensive coordinator you brought in.
I think
that's
depends.
Another hit on. Well, so Terry Fontenot doesn't pick when to sit Coop or get some assistance at kicker.
He
didn't pick when
he had influence. He specifically said he had
that decision comes from the head coach. That's the coach's that's the head coach's decision.
We didn't have another kicker on the roster. It has to be a multiple decision.
Make a move. If he's losing you games, Koo was losing games.
He was.
You have to make a call, man. We have enough money to sign a kicker, bro. That's not an expensive position.
And the kicker we signed was a journeyman who was mid-tier. Who made that decision?
We could have tried out 3 more kickers by that time for no money at all.
Who made the decision?
You have to say that you're going to move on from Koo in order for that decision to be made. And
it's a mutual decision.
I feel like Raheem didn't say that he needed to move on. No. To move on is the coach's decision. 100% the coach's decision. Terry Fontenot's not making roster starter decisions. He's not.
Who's to say that Raheem didn't go to Terry and say, we need to find someone for Koo because he's hurt?
Me. I say it. I say he didn't do that.
And you know that for what?
In all my years of being a general manager, I know
for all zero.
The kicker is the easiest position to sign. There are always kickers waiting because most kickers are journeymen. Now, coming out of a scenario where we had one of the best kickers and he just, was it the yips? Was it injuries? We'll never really know. Ultimately, they say he was hurt, but he didn't look hurt when he was kicking them balls. He had plenty of leg. He was just missing. The coach needs to make that decision to sit the kicker. And at that point, that's when you discuss it with your GM, like, hey, we're going to have to bring somebody in because I'm going to have to sit him. The GM's not going to the coach like, hey, man, I'm about to sign somebody. Sit Koo.
I understand that. Yes, you are correct. The order of operations is, but who's to say that discussion didn't happen sooner than the actual final decision, right? Like that discussion could have happened 3 weeks before the ultimate move. And we don't know that. Okay. And that's my point. We don't know what was said behind closed doors.
We don't know what's said behind closed doors, and we never will. You're 6-3, leading the division, undefeated in the division. You do not make the playoffs. Is that on Terry Fontenot? Absolutely not.
A percentage of it is.
None of it. Because he built the team that was 6-3. Anything that changed
he also
on the
built
team,
the team
aside from
that
injuries,
was
no. He built the good part of the team. From there is just coaching that allowed that team to dive to the dumps.
You can't take just the good without the bad and say 100% of the good was him and 100% of the bad was Raheem. It just doesn't.
I can.
You can, but it doesn't work that way. You can try.
You got to think of the games that we started losing, though. That was coaching.
Some of it.
The Washington game was the timeouts.
I'd say some of it's lack of talent.
I mean, that talent got you to 6-3, right? I mean, did the challenge change midseason? It did not.
I mean, it did. They didn't play as well. They ran
You
out of
had players come
gas,
back from injury during that, right?
and they didn't play as well.
Like Troy Anderson, that's who we should be. That's another person we should be talking about. Like, I think he needs to be gone too. Send him with Kyle Pitts. Troy Anderson, Kyle Pitts for Trey Hendrickson. Lock it. They'd never do it, but
yeah. I think just to your original question, then we can move on. If you move on, if you make a decision to fire someone, you've had multiple years of examples to see that Terry has failed as a GM, whereas Raheem will be in his second season. I think he will get a little bit more grace. I do. The sample size is larger for the GM not getting it done. And it is a joint effort.
it's a joint effort. So I think if Raheem gets fired, they probably both get fired.
And that may
But I
be
don't see Terry Fontenot getting fired and Raheem Morris staying on as head coach. I just don't see that as a possibility.
yeah. I mean, and you're probably right. If it's probably a package deal.
Yeah, probably 60 package deal, 30 Raheem, 10 Terry.
I have a hard time seeing Raheem go after 2 years.
It's only because you backed me into a corner that I came out like a wolf, right? I don't want Raheem Morris fired. Let's be clear. I want him and Terry Fontenot to have many more successful years together. They haven't had any successful years together yet, but they just worked 1 year together. I want them to be, because it does seem like they have a great working relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Not one that, Terry would go and say bench Coop, but they have a great working relationship. They talk admirably about each other. I like to see that, man, and I wish them success, both of them.
100%.
Yeah.
So we've well surpassed our mark. So I will
It's been a good episode.
I'll just say this here. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. Like, subscribe. We do still have an Instagram, and TikTok was gone for only 15 minutes. So
yeah,
we still got that. So follow us on the socials. You can find it right here in the upper left corner. If you don't already, hit that notification bell, and we appreciate you. And if you're here and want to listen to a little bit more bonus content, then we're going to talk a little bit about some NFL playoffs before we sign off. So
stick around.